overcoming the impossible again, waking up and realizing that again and was not paralyzed. Going through this a second, not only was it a miracle the first time, but knowing I had done the impossible twice was just amazing, and it's a testament again to God's faithfulness. Successfully extubated for the second time. I had only spent a couple of days in the ICU this time, 1 or 2 days, and then I was sent back up to the stable floor, and it was time for me to really start working on getting ready to go home. They really wanted me to put my fight pants on and really work on going home. I had been in the hospital for 3 weeks now, so it was a long time. It had been a rough road and lots of ups and downs, and but now that I had made it through the second surgery well, it was time to start working on preparing to go home after nearly a month. And so I wanted, well, it will be, I did go home after 28 days, which you'll see in the next video or the next segment. But for this segment, I wanted to talk about just something like kind of how the rest of my recovery went in the hospital, recovering from this second spinal fusion. So as far as pain, I mean, it had gotten worse again because I was opened back up, but I just had my first spinal fusion, so it wasn't like I really had the opportunity to heal. I mean, it definitely got worse, but it didn't get like too much worse to where I was already at, because we had difficulty managing it because of my limited pain management option. That was just another big goal, working towards going home. Obviously, after the second surgery, I was put back on the PCA, which is like a pain thing where you press a button and it will administer the medication as needed, obviously only so much every so often. They only kept me back on that for a couple of days after my second surgery, and then because I was on it a lot longer the first time for like my original fusion. That was the whole mess. You can go back to my first segment to learn about that. So once we had kind of at that point established a decent as they could plan with the options that I had available to me, after my spinal fusion revision surgery, I had gotten up in my wheelchair the day after this time. So last time it had been like almost a week, 3 or 4 days, maybe a week, I don't know. The second time I had gotten up again like the day after, so I'll insert that picture here. That was really, really difficult. Again, only 24 hours after a second 7-hour spinal surgery, and I was already up. And I was really, really out of it that day. As you can probably tell from the photo, it looks like my eyes are closed, but they're open. They're just little slits, but I was in a lot of pain. It was looking really hard to breathe. I was quite like lightheaded getting up this time. It was like my shortest chair duration yet. I was only up for like 2 or 3 minutes, and then they knew like she's got to get back in the bed, so they got me back in the bed. And obviously I continued to work that time and enough to go home and improved every single day. Like I remember that day too, like I was just so exhausted, and that picture just makes me laugh. And I just have come a really long way since then, obviously. And so I left the ICU only after a couple of days and got back up onto the stable floor. Continued to focus on pain management and gaining weight. I talked a little bit about this in my second segment. You'll see as time goes on with these segments, there's less and less to talk about because, you know, hospital days can be mundane and there's not something new necessarily every single day. But I really just wanted to document this myself as well so I can remember these details, look back at this a year from now, and see how far I've come. I wanted to talk about some different things that happened during my stay. Like after my second surgery, some really cool things happened that I wanted to share, and just some really fun memories that I never want to forget, and I don't think that I will, and I wanted to share them with you here. Talked about this in a previous segment, but I had lost some weight after my first spinal fusion surgery because I was under an enormous amount of pain, stress, and when you don't eat, you lose weight. Obviously not trying to lose weight. In fact, after going through a spinal fusion, it's not good to lose weight because the body needs all this extra protein and muscle mass to correctly I guess, do the fusion process and heal appropriately, because a spinal fusion is such a huge surgery, and you don't have, obviously, I'm very small, so when you don't have enough fat, it can go after muscle to like feed your body. Obviously, I did not lose that much weight, but they just wanted me to get like good protein and just enough calories. Like, calories was really important. Focused on eating was a real challenge for me. I've talked about this in a few of my videos with this segment. When I'm under that amount of pain, my stomach like completely shuts down. My appetite completely shuts down. Like, I don't even want like my absolute favorite foods in the world, nothing. So, which I obviously know is not good, but it's just something that I struggle with when I'm in that much pain. Trying to get me to eat some really good meals was really important, like lots of calories. After my second surgery, we really started to focus on that and just make sure I'm eating like all my meals instead of just like a few bites. I didn't regain like my full appetite, I would say, for like probably like 4 weeks after, 3 weeks after, but obviously I ate enough to like for them to be happy about. Obviously, like, go home, like I was doing well, and that also continued to improve each day. That wasn't an aspect of the journey that I expected to struggle with so much. Obviously, as you heard, like previous surgeries that I've had, that's just something that I struggle with in terms of after surgery is eating. But this was like a really big one because the pain was so out of control. I had lost some weight, not a drastic amount of weight at all. Obviously, like, weight loss was not my plans for this. I was not supposed to be losing weight. I was not expected to lose weight, and so I needed to work on regaining that weight, and so obviously I have since then, and I'm way past being back to normal eating, like, totally. But I would say eating didn't get to be 100% perfect until like end of February, early March. Obviously, I ate my meals and stuff, but like my normal appetite, 100% normal. It took a while, but obviously I ate enough to sustain myself. And protein shakes, meal replacement shakes, were my friend. Like, I would make smoothies with protein powder because I really needed that protein for this recovery. And the reason that I bring this food into it is because one of the really cool experiences that I wanted to share that I had was with one of my night nurses, and she was and is one of the most amazing, compassionate people that I've ever met in my life. The healthcare field would be a better place if more nurses had the level of compassion that she does for her patients. Sees them as people and not just patients, and sees them and meets them in their struggles. And so obviously pain management was really, really difficult, and one of the nights, like, I was particularly struggling. I, like, not in terms of, like, eating. I had, like, one of my off days of eating, like, even as much as, like, I knew I had to eat. I barely ate this day. Like I said, she was one of my night nurses, so by the time, like, she had come on, it was, like, 7:30, 8 o'clock or something like that. I think 7:30 or 7. So obviously, like, I had eaten dinner already, or, like, tried to. Every day was a bad pain day, but some of the days were, like, obviously more difficult than some. Like, recovery is not linear. This was, like, one of my particularly bad days. I was just not having a good night overall. Just a bad day. Pain, discomfort, frustration, not eating, like, you know, the whole 9 yards. She came in to, like, do her nightly thing and, like, nightly routine and try to make me comfortable. I had obviously gotten the report from the day nurses, knew that I was, like, not having a good day. Didn't eat much. Like, they would record, like, what I would eat, obviously, because they wanted me to eat a lot of calories. Obviously, I didn't that day. She was, like, just really, like, met me where I was at. Really took the time to get to know me as a person and not just as a patient, and could tell that I was having a particularly bad night and bad day, obviously. Again, really took the time to get to know me as a person and not as a patient. And I know you're probably like, what do you mean by that? Unless you're medically complex, you'll probably never fully understand that, but just when you're medically complex, you're going through a difficult medical crisis. Like, even in the midst of the struggle, there's so much more to you than your medical conditions. Like, I have a YouTube channel. I have this amazing online community. I have accomplished this, this, and this. I am in college. Like, there's so much more to me than osteogenesis imperfecta and scoliosis than my post-spinal fusion status. We really, like, formed, like, a friendship, and it was a particularly quiet night on the floor. It's not something you say, by the way, as a patient. Never say, like, oh, it's pretty quiet. Nurses don't like that. So, but I can say it now because it's over. It was a particularly quiet night on the floor. She had me and, like, one other patient, I think. And I couldn't sleep, by the way, this night either. And she was like, hey, like, why don't we watch a movie and have pizza? Like, I'll order. I have goosebumps because, like, this is just such a crazy, wild experience, and to have, like, someone take the time to do this is just, like, crazy. I don't know. Sounds simple, but so many nurses are amazing nurses, but there's also so many nurses that just what they have to do and, like, leave the room. They don't, like, really take a look at, like, who they're taking care of and, like, really learn about them. If that makes sense, it's hard to articulate a lot of this unless you're, like, in the moment. She was like, why don't we, like, turn on a Netflix show, because the TV in the hospital have Netflix. She's like, why don't we turn on a Netflix show or, like, a Disney Plus show, and, like, I'll order pizza and we'll just, like, hang out for a bit, because, like, obviously everyone knew that was the goal. Get Michaela to eat food. Like, I noticed you didn't eat much today. Like, why don't we watch a movie, I'll order pizza, and we'll just, like, hang out and have a girls' night. And I was like, what, are you serious? And at this point it was, like, 12:30 or something, or, like, maybe even 1 a.m. I have no idea. Like, yes, I'm dead serious. I was like, no, like, you're not spending your money buying me a pizza. You can watch a movie if you want, like, but you don't need to, like, spend your own money to, like, buy me a pizza. She's like, well, I'm doing it, so tell me what you like in your pizza. I was just laughing at this point because I couldn't believe what was that, because it was so cool and so memorable. She literally leaves my room and, like, tells me to go pick out a movie. Like, gives me the remote, tells me to pick out a movie. She's like, I'm gonna go order the pizza, and when you get back, you tell me what movie we're watching. Finding Dory, I think, is the movie that I picked. When I get back, tell me what movie we're watching. So she calls on the phone, Pizza House Ann Arbor. I think that's what it's called. Let me look it up and see if there's actually a pizza place called this, because I want to get it right. Pizza House Ann Arbor. Okay, that's what it was. Pizza House Ann Arbor, and they're, like, one of the only pizza places that are open super late. Like, it closes at 4 a.m. It's open 10 a.m. to 4 a.m. every single day. The Pizza House Ann Arbor, hashtag not sponsored. What pizza place is open? Like, it's 1 in the morning, and by the time it gets here, it's gonna be like 2 in the morning. She was like, the Pizza House Ann Arbor is open, and I was like, okay. And so she ordered me, like, this little personal pan pizza, pepperoni pizza, or cheese pizza. I can't remember what I picked. It came, like, within 40 minutes. She had it delivered and everything. She went downstairs and she brought the pizza, and I'll insert some pictures. I had to take pictures of this night because it was so memorable. We hung out and we just got to know each other. I got to learn all about her and her amazing story. People are always wanting to learn about my story. I love learning about other people's story. Like, something that I share with you guys all the time. You guys know one of my mottos is, like, we all have a story, and I just choose to share mine publicly, but we all have a story. It was just really humbling that she chose to share her story with me and some of the experiences that she's had. I got to share about myself, obviously, and, like, my YouTube channel and the things that I accomplished, and she just thought that was the most amazing thing. It was, like, an incredible human. We laughed, and I cannot remember, ever since I was inpatient, like, there was not a night or a time that I laughed or smiled that much, like, in almost a month, like, in 3 weeks, because at this point it was, like, 3 weeks that I had been there, a little over 3 weeks, and I had not smiled or laughed as much as I had that night, and it was absolutely incredible. And obviously it really stuck in my memory because I still talk about it to this day. For a nurse to, like, go that extra mile, and something that really sticks with them too is I always make sure that they are appreciated, and I share with them, like, every nurse that I had, like, that would ever walk in and out of my room. Like, I would always say thank you, like, for everything and anything that they did for me. Every little thing. And I just think they get so underappreciated sometimes. Like, not every family or every patient that they help take care of is easy to take care of or communicate with or is very kind. There are not nice people in this world, including medically complex people, and there's just not nice people in the world. And nurses put all of that aside and take care of you, whether you're a nice person or not. And that's what great humans they are, and that's the oath that they took when they decided on this job. Nurses and medical staff in general have been such a big part of my life, so integrated in so many aspects of my life and so many chapters in my life that it's just something that I always make sure to let them know that they're appreciated, and like, thank you for what you're doing, thank you for helping me get back up on my feet and working towards getting home to my family and helping me go to the bathroom and all these things. Like, not everything that they do in their job is pretty. Like, it's obviously not an enjoyable thing to help someone go to the bathroom. I appreciate that. In this world, we're there for each other. Like, in this world, we have each other, and what a gift that it is that there are people in our life that sign up and are able to help us different aspects of our life. I'm not sharing this with you to say like, oh, look at me. I'm sharing this with you as a reminder that, like, if you are medically complex or if you have extended hospital stays, like, as long as you've been there, just make sure to like keep thanking them and acknowledging them, because they are there for you. I especially do this for the nurses that, like this one, that go above and beyond, like absolutely above and beyond, and are extremely kind, and I make sure to do that exponentially for those, because I've come across so many nurses that are not kind and that don't enjoy what they do and don't treat patients with respect. And it's unfortunate, but not everybody that has the career that they have is meant to be in that career, if that makes sense. Anyways, that's just a little side tangent, but it was just the best night. We were up hanging out until like 2:30, 3:30. It was crazy. It was so much fun, and I did eat some pizza. I did eat. She got me to eat, so I did eat some pizza. Like, you gotta promise me to eat the pizza. So I ate the pizza. Obviously, again, it was something that really meant a lot to me, because I still talk about it to this day. And since I was inpatient for so long, especially on the stable floor, I really grew a bond with a lot of my nurses, because I had not seen friends or family in 20 days, 21 days at this point. They became my friends. They became my social interaction, family for 28 days. So many of them were so amazing, and like it honestly felt like I knew some of them like forever. So anyways, that was the really cool like pizza party story that I have. It's something I'll never forget. Anyways, that was really long, and I apologize about that. Obviously, the rest of this inpatient stay, working towards those same goals. Also, I don't know if I mentioned this in any of the other segments, but every morning at like 6 a.m. the residents like do their rounds, and like the doctor on the floor would like do their rounds, and like I would have this dressing that had to be changed every single day, and that hurt. So that was interesting. That hurt, like, you know what I mean. I had to keep doing that every single day, and I also had to continue that for a couple of weeks after I got home. Anyways, so that was another little medical aspect of the journey. And also during this time, I had to get a new IV placed. My IV started not working, and I was training this new girl. Like, I'm horrible to get an IV on. And so she was like really trying. Like, she did pretty good, but it just took a little bit. Like, she was learning and everything, but that was quite the experience. But they were very kind and very patient, and that was an experience. Another really cool experience that I wanted to share during this time that happened, the music therapist, like, obviously, and the art therapist. If you saw one of my last videos where I shared about the McKenna's Squad Beauty Box that I received while I was inpatient, I will link that video here. I received that like after the second spinal fusion surgery. The art therapist had brought that by, and she had come by a couple more times during my stay. The one day she had came, it was like more in the evening this time, and it was like a day or two before I was like about to go home, and like I was really nervous, which I'll share about like my going home video. It was just really nice because she had brought me flowers. They were faux flowers, but they were beautiful, bright, vibrant flowers, and I'll insert a picture of those. It was so pretty. Like, again, Kathy, like, she was just another person that I really gained like a friendship with, and she brought me flowers. It was like, again, one of the hard days that she came by. She just knew I was like having a harder day, and so like she just sat and like hung out with me, and we chatted. She's like, you're probably not in the mood to do art, but like I just want to sit and hang with you so you're not alone, if that's okay with you. And I was like, I would love that. And so that's what we did, and that's when she brought me these flowers. Again, they're faux flowers. I still have them. I absolutely love them, and they're just a really special memory for me. Like I said, even though so much of this experience was so awful and traumatizing and painful, there were so many moments, and I got to meet so many amazing people and just have all these really special experiences that God had given me. These are the moments of why I wouldn't change what I went through for the world. Like, they are such special memories. So much of this halo traction and spinal fusion experience has been and was so special, and I'm just really grateful for these experiences that I had in the hospital. Like, it's just an amazing place. I still have the flowers. I absolutely love them, and they're just a really special memento and memory for me. And I don't know if she'll ever see this video, but now she knows I still have the flowers. If she again, this is like over a week's time because there's really not much else to share. Like, day-to-day routine, I ate, slept, pain medication, ate, slept, pain medication. Like, it was just recovery, right? My body had been through so much, and so this segment, I just kind of wanted to share what that looked like and some of the experiences that I had leading up going home. I'm getting closer and closer to being stable enough to go home. I only had a couple days left in the hospital at this point over all these experiences I'm sharing with you, like over a week's time. A few days before, I guess I should have said this experience first, but even a few days before that, this was only like a couple of days after my second spinal fusion surgery, music therapist came back, and I mentioned this previously. I shared a little bit more about the music therapist in one of the segments. I'll link it. I typically shared more about it in this segment because this is when it happened, like the timeline of it. She was absolutely incredible. She had came back, and this is when I was actually up in my wheelchair. She had asked me what music I like to listen to, and I said Christian music. This hospital is a very diverse hospital, both patients and employees and staff. I wasn't sure, like, not everyone is Christian, and that's not for me to judge, and everyone has a right to their own beliefs, and that's not a thing for me to judge. Everyone has their own free will to believe in whatever and whoever they want to believe in, but I know that God has called me to Him and to follow Him. My faith is something that I am very proud of, and I love to share about because it means everything to me. He has gotten me through so much. Not everyone, like I said, is Christian or listens to Christian music, or is a believer, and so I wasn't sure the kind of response that I would get. But I don't listen to country music. I don't listen to rap music. Like, I listen to Christian music, and so, like, I wasn't gonna name pop music because it's popular. Like, I wanted to, like, share what I actually listened to. But come to find out, she must be a believer because she was like, oh, that's great. Like, do you listen to Casting Crowns? And so one of her favorites is Casting Crowns as well, and that is my favorite. And I was like, absolutely. She played Great Are You, Lord by Casting Crowns and on the guitar. And it was just another one of those, like, God experiences, like meeting her, knowing that, like, she's a believer, and it was just, like, a really cool experience. Like, you could just feel, like, the spirit in the room, and I love that song. One of my favorite songs of all time. Again, it's called Great Are You, Lord by Casting Crowns. And a few other Christian, there's, like, a ton of versions of this song, I think, but I'm not sure, like, who the original is. I think it might be Casting Crowns, but again, it's just one of those songs that there's so many versions of, but the Casting Crown version is my favorite. And so she sang and played that song, and then after a while I started to get into a lot of pain, and so I went back into my bed and started not feeling good, just really tired. She stayed and played music while I went to sleep, and that was just a really beautiful experience. So thank you to art therapists and music therapists out there who create really special and meaningful experiences for patients like myself in the hospital. It really meant everything. Again, obviously this is something that really meant a lot to me because I still talk about it to this day. So that was a really cool experience. If you missed my last segment, I'll link it because I'm not going to go like in depth of like all this next part, but I saw my psychologist a couple of more times and she was super amazing. I did share, I remember I shared, she somehow found out when I was going to be activated the second time. She was there when I got activated. I did share about that in the last segment. Yeah, those were some of the really special experiences that I had during that week of recovery after my second spinal fusion, and some of the things that I struggled with and had to work on. Eating, gaining weight, and pain management. This part of the segment of like my spinal fusion experience I knew would be most difficult for me to articulate and share about because there wasn't a lot of detailed tests that I had. Like, it was pretty much all done. Go down one more time for an x-ray again, make sure the hardware was in place a few days after my surgery, and it was. As far as like my atelectasis that was like pretty much it. I wasn't really like out of breath anymore. I felt like a little bit with it a couple weeks after I got home. I only had to be on antibiotics a short time, and then by the time I was discharged, I was done with the antibiotics for my atelectasis. So that was going well, and I was feeling well from that. If you want to learn what atelectasis is and why I got it, and well, we don't know why I got it. Experience with that and how that severely almost complicated things. Like this video, but really after my second spinal fusion surgery, it was just working on the next steps. Were no longer like what surgery next. Like it was going home was the goal, and eat, sleep, pain, and getting through each day. It's really hard to articulate like the amount of pain that I went through during that time. Like it was really hard. But now being on the other side of it, relieving to know that I can get through something like that. I can get through the hardest thing of my life. It was the hardest experience of my life going through this. God gave me the strength and the will to get through that. I just had a really great team, and I know I've said that so many times, but the people that were in my circle during this time, it was just such a God thing. Like he made sure I had all the best people and compassionate people taking care of me during the most difficult time of my life. I did have a couple, like one, obviously the one in ICU was not good with the nurse. That the medication that I was allergic to, did have a nurse that was older. She didn't understand the severity of osteogenesis imperfecta. She was very rough. Like she would really like kind of like pull on my arm too much, like squeeze too much, like helping me with the bathroom, and ultimately like I had to have her moved from my care. The second time I had to use the restroom, like she came back, like whoever I told didn't like really say like what had happened, but the last thing I needed to deal with was a fractured arm or leg. She came back a second time, and like I was crying because she almost fractured my arm, but she didn't. My respiratory therapist saw, because she had to come in and like bring something in at the time, and she was like, "You okay?" And I'm like, "No, like I have this nurse, like she doesn't understand I've asked her to be removed multiple times, keeps coming back, and I don't want her in my room." Obviously, like she was older, and like she just didn't understand. She wasn't like mean at all. Just didn't understand OI and the severity of it. But that wasn't for me to worry about. I had, again, the last thing I needed to worry about was a fracture, and she wasn't listening when I told her not to pull or not to squeeze. She wasn't getting it. It wasn't getting through to her. I had to have her removed from my care. And that was actually the first time ever that I've ever had a nurse. I've ever like demanded a nurse not enter my room. That's how close I could have been fracturing, just because she didn't understand it. Thankfully, my respiratory therapist was like, "Oh my gosh, Michaela, I am so sorry. I will let so-and-so know, and she will not come back in, I promise." And not come back in after finally, the second time, but she did not come back into my, but every other nurse, except for those two, the ICU nurse, and then my stable floor nurse, the one night or 2 nights, was amazing. But I do just want to make sure to share both sides of healthcare that I experienced. Oftentimes I share of all these positive experiences, because I've had so many countless positive experiences in the healthcare field. Like there's so many good people in healthcare, and there's far more good people in healthcare than there are not good people. But I do just want to share those not good experiences too, so that you know what to look for, and that you know to be your best advocate. Again, not everybody that's in any career that they're in should be necessarily in the career that they're in. Healthcare can be a very vulnerable setting, and so it's just important to know what to look out for, and to trust your instincts, be your advocate, and that's what I had to do. And ultimately, like I said, she was not allowed in my room anymore, and I felt bad doing that, because like I said, she was older, she didn't understand. I could just tell she didn't understand, like she wasn't getting it kind of thing. Like if I could just pop her bubble, she would have got it, but she wasn't like the mean type of person. She just didn't understand my situation at all. I tried to educate and speak up, but that wasn't enough. She still wasn't careful, and so I make sure to share both sides of these experiences, and know that I have experienced both. Experienced really great people in healthcare, but I've experienced really scary moments in healthcare too. And again, something that I remind you guys of all the time is healthcare is run by humans, and that's pretty much puts it in a nutshell. There was also this other nurse that I had that I wanted to share about. She was amazing, and she is a believer, and she walked in and I was like listening to my Christian music, and she was like, "Oh, like, are you Christian?" And I was like, "Yes," like we're just talking about our faith, and she was just really just a faith-filled person. Like you could just feel the joy of the Lord in her, and she was incredible, in a lot of pain, and having trouble sleeping. And so she was telling me about the Abide app. It plays like different Bible, it will like read the Bible to you, and there's like different meditations and like calming music, and they have like Bible verse of the day, like Bible reading of the day. There's a paid version which has like so much more. The free version has like little bits in it. She was telling me about the Abide app, which was really cool, but again, that was just another God moment when she was taking care of me, because you could just feel like the joy of the Lord in her, and she was just like praying for healing for me. And so that was just a really, she knew I was struggling, and she was like, is it okay if I pray with you and pray for you? And so that was just an experience I will never forget. Like, healthcare has been such a integral part of my life, but there was just something about this admission that was like so many powerful moments. Spinal fusion and heel traction experience has been like the biggest and most powerful chapter of my story. The last segment in my spinal experience, I'll still be doing videos about scoliosis, and I have a few more videos, like one about like my recovery, recovering at home, what that was like and has been like. But as far as like hospital admission, the next segment is the last one. It's the day that I go home, and after 28 days, I headed home. My family came and picked me up, and I saw them for the first time after 28 days. It was the longest all four of us ever been apart. So many emotions, so many feelings I want to share. And the next segment that you'll see is discharge day, and I go home after 28 days in the hospital. As you can tell just from the segment alone, there were lots of ups and downs, but it was just a really powerful experience. The next segment is filled with so many emotions, mostly a whole lot of joy. Can't wait to share with you, and then I will also share in another video of what recovery has been like at home. I'll link my scoliosis playlist, but after all this time and bringing you through every step of the way, I'm like wrapping up this scoliosis journey. It took me like 2.5, 3 years to like when I really started pursuing this, and now I'm like sharing it with you, this miracle, and getting to go home trach free, not paralyzed. My team continues to be in awe of me being trach free from the surgery. Like, it is a true miracle, and I'm so grateful to share this miracle with you. Thank you guys for listening and watching and being a part of the biggest, most difficult chapter of my life. Here's to the next part, coming soon.